let me just kind of lay some foundational truths here based on what I believe. Y'all don't mind if I share what I believe, do you? Say, I believe God. There is a divine order for your family. Do you believe that? You believe there's a divine order for family? Do you believe that God also has a divine order for finances? You do know that God is an organized God. God is very strategic, very organized, and so we're going to look at some of the things that I think might help us. So let's lay the groundwork. Romans 5:17 says this in the King James, and I think almost all, if not all, my scriptures tonight are coming from the King James. Everybody say, praise the Lordeth. Amen. For it is by one man's offense, death reigned by one. Much more, they which receive abundance of grace. Raise your hand if you could receive abundance of grace. How many of you probably believe, based on your past, you received an abundance of grace more than the people who are around you who also got an abundance? But you got a bigger abundance. Yeah, I got a whole abundance of grace, a whole abundance of it. And of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one, Jesus Christ. I'm going to read that last portion again. Much more, they which received an abundance of grace. Raise a hand if that's you. Abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness. So you got an abundance of grace and a gift of righteousness. Okay, that's really great. Shall reign in life through one, Jesus Christ, or by one, Jesus Christ. And again, the Amplified just says it louder. But the Amplified literally says, in the text of the Amplified, shall reign in life how? As kings. So that's pretty powerful. So if we're going to have receiving an abundance of grace and the gift of righteousness, the big question that you must always ask is why? How many of you have children, they ask that question? I mean, almost no matter what you say, why? And, you know, parents, because I said so. What is the why? So let's answer the why before we get too deeply involved. Why an abundance of grace? Why the gift of righteousness? Why? So you can reign in life. Because if you don't reign in life, well, life is hard. People will tell you all kinds of negative things about life. But what we want to talk about is not life as humans experience it. We want to talk about life as the children of God experience it, and that is reigning in life as kings. Well, you cannot reign in life as a king. You can't walk in dominion authority unless you understand your authority in Christ is available to everyone who believes because of the abundance of grace, which cleans your slate. And grace not only removes your past, grace enables you to live the grace life or the faith life. And then the gift of righteousness, which means you are in a right standing with God and you have the righteousness of God. Therefore, you can reign in as kings in life. That means you're supposed to take dominion in every area of your life. You should not be a slave to finances and a slave to debt. You should not be a recycled Christian where you're always having to recycle partners. You ought to be able to understand the will of God, understand God's divine order for your family, divine order for your personal life, obviously, and to have the divine order of God in your finances. And God's divine order for your finances, which I will share you a little tidbit here, kind of give you the Clef Notes. You honor God with 10% of the 100% He gave you. He leaves you with 90%. And when you honor Him with the 10%, that seed produces a harvest, some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold. So don't focus on the 90 or even the 10. Focus on harvest. So I'll just say again, when God talks to you about a seed, God's got a harvest on His mind. If you're focusing on the seed, you're focusing on the wrong thing. All right, so let's look at family order. And this family order, it would apply in relationships. It would even apply in business relationships. But we're going to talk specifically about God's divine family order. Establish rules to lead and govern by. That means in our families we don't lead by the seat of our pants. Nor do we lead based on our emotion, whether we're having a good day, a bad day, low testosterone, high testosterone, hormones, hormones, groans, I don't care what them groans are. You lead and govern because you have established rules. It's a real simple thing here in this ministry. If you know me at all, you know our rule is. You've worked in the office. What's our rule? Our rule is we have a policy for everything, including a policy. If we don't have a policy, we'll write a policy. The other rule we live by is we have a form for everything. We even have a form to create a form. Why? Because it's order. We have more people, we have as many people on paid staff in this myriad of ministries as we have in this room tonight. I hadn't even counted, but I know we got more people on staff. That means you got to have order. How many of you would like to have 125 kids? How many of you would like to have 125 people depending on you to obey God so they can fulfill their dream and their calling? I have lost my mind for Jesus. For real. You got to establish rules to lead and govern by. There has to be rules. What do you have if you don't have any rules? Do you know they actually have signs on the road out here that tells you a speed limit? Hey, y'all know that's not a suggestion? It says speed limit, not speed opportunity or speed up. I mean, it's a speed limit. That's supposed to be something you abide by. And even in the rain, wrecks everywhere tonight. Why? Because people think that's a suggestion. And if you're doing the speed limit, they think you're an obstacle. What is it about driving? We think we have to be in front of everybody else. I don't know. I just went up there. You know, lead, follower, get out of the way, right? All right, so establish rules. Now, we're talking about relationships. You can talk about ministry, organization, whatever. There has to be rules. Now, the next one, make only rules everyone will follow. All right, let me clarify that. Make rules that everyone follows. Now, let me clarify that. Make everyone follow the rules. There is a rule in business. It is better not to have a policy than to have a policy that you do not follow, because that creates confusion. Thank you for your encouragement. Okay, so we're talking about family. How many of y'all grew up in a home? I grew up in the Methodist home. And my parents were Methodist. My mom was a Methodist, and then when my parents divorced, we lived in the Methodist home. They had rules there. But I don't remember. Now, some of you younger folks, maybe y'all did this, you know, that you did the little chart on the wall, or maybe did the chart on the refrigerator, and it had all the rules and all the chores, and if you did it, you got a star. We didn't have that. If you didn't do it, you got to whip it. I mean, my mama never put a chart up and gave me a star. Now, I will tell you, she knew how to fire me up. I do know that. I think my mother's favorite song was, "Light my fire, light my fire." Make only rules everyone will follow. Clearly communicate the rules. Yeah, now, y'all don't look at me like I'm not even talking to y'all. Y'all ever play a board game or a card game? You know, down Mississippi, we play it this here way. Well, listen, my man, you're not up in Mississippi. Of course, that's down anyway. But you in Arkansas, and up here in Arkansas, we don't play it that way. Well, who made you in charge? I'm in Arkansas. Here in Arkansas, when we play this game, here's how we play it. No, we don't do that. How many of you play Monopoly? Ever play Monopoly? Yeah? How many ever went to jail? Just in Monopoly. There are rules. Do not pass go. There's rules. You have to clearly communicate the rules. And every once in a while, somebody debates the rules, and then some smarty britches pulls them out and reads them to you. That's pretty irritating whenever it contradicts what you've always done, doesn't it? So you got to clearly communicate the rules. The problem in our homes, my whole point of this is this a divine order. A lot of times in our homes, there aren't any real rules. Mom and dad are in charge. You just do what you're told. There aren't any rules, and you're not really sure what the consequences are if you don't follow the rules. It depends on mama's mood or daddy's mood. And the problem with that is we don't know what to expect. So when you establish clearly defined rules and you clearly communicate the rules, I think it's important to communicate at some point what the consequences are if you don't follow the rules. There's a rule. I don't even understand this rule. You know all about CPR and stuff. You teach that stuff. How come you can't swim after you eat? How many of you were told down to a community center, you just ate that hot dog, you can't swim for 30 minutes? I jumped in the pool. I swam just absolutely fine. I peed in the pool too, but you know. How many of you ever cheated and got in the pool 20 minutes after you ate a hot dog or some nachos? Look at you rebels. Now, I'm going to go back to that abundance of grace and that gift of righteousness. A bunch of sinners jumped at that pool. It's a miracle we didn't have to drag them out. They say that's because your blood is rushing down here to do the digestion. It could cause a cramp. How many of you ever got a cramp after eating a hot dog and jumping in the swimming pool? Did you? Anybody? It's a rule. They told me at the concession stand, the Jonesboro Community Center, son, you're eating. Now you got to sit out for 30 minutes. I just didn't eat. All right. So clearly communicate the rules. Now, this is really powerful here. Rule with passion and compassion. That don't mean you're a pushover just because you have compassion. Rule with passion. Enthusiasm draws people. Pessimism, narcissism, and all them other isms, they do not. People will follow you if you're excited about what you're doing. You agree? Anybody agree? Can somebody just have some enthusiasm? Like a Pekingese. Okay. Rule with passion and temper it with compassion. That means you're very passionate with your children, you're very passionate about your dreams and your financial goals, but you're doing it compassionately, not like a tyrant, not like a dictator. I watched the president this afternoon, live television, with a whole bunch of different politicians from both parties, and I guess there were probably even some libertarians there, and he was listening and talking, and they were talking, and they were all, he said, that's a good idea, we need to do that. Can we add that to that bill? And I just thought, man, that guy, he's leading with passion. Everybody kept saying, you know, Mr. President, if you get behind this, we can get this done. We can get this done because you're bringing something to the table that we haven't seen in many, many administrations. He's leading with passion. And he said, you're afraid of the NRA. I know you need the NRA. He said, I don't. He doesn't need their money. Only thing I got to tell you tonight is you ought to thank God every day that I had to have an abundance of grace or I'd be a politician. I don't even want to think about, I just go down and sign up to run for something. They're going to have me on all kinds of news reports. CNN called me last Thursday and wanted to know if I would call them back in New York so we could talk about our school security. Now, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. Do I look stupid? Please do this. I didn't call them back. You know, all they're going to do is try to make me look or sound like a crazy person. I don't need CNN to help me doing that. And then after that, I get a call from Channel 4, and they want to talk about school security. Now, let me ask you again. I didn't give you a chance to think about it the first time. Do I look stupid? Only 3 people. So do I need to ask you a third time for the rest of y'all to get in on this? Rule with passion. People want to follow someone with passion. And then temper it with compassion. And you know what? Compassion actually holds people accountable. If you love your children, you read Hebrews chapter 12. But if you are without, look at that. Tell me I'm not in the Holy Ghost. I'm in verse 8. But if you be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then you are, I'm not even going to read that. That's not a cuss word. That's someone who is illegitimate. And you are not sons. Chastisement's not talking about a stick or a rod or a whip. That word chastisement means to be trained as a child. I don't beat my children. I nurture them. I train them up in the things of the Lord. I model it. I mentor them. If I have love and compassion for them, I'm going to correct them. And when they don't understand what I'm saying, I'm going to repeat myself and make sure they understand it by asking them to repeat it back to me. And then I'm going to say, and what are the consequences if we don't do this? And why are there consequences? Because I love you. So when we say rule with passion and rule with and temper it with compassion, that doesn't mean you let your children run the roost. Or let them determine where they go to church or where you eat lunch. I don't even get to make that decision. Been married 45 years. Come on, give a brother a break up in the house, huh? All right, so let's keep going. Enforce the rules or throw them out. It's real simple. If you're not going to follow the rules, you're not going to enforce the rules, there are no consequences for the rules, what are the rules good for? Just to fill up a poster board, and if they're not going to follow the rules, there's no stars to even stick on the poster. All right, clarify any rules that they don't understand. That's really important. We talk about that sometime in child rearing. But sometimes people just don't know the rules. You know, here in the church, we've been here 28 years nearly now, and over 28 years, we've had a turnover of different congregational members. We have a difference of different leadership. We've expanded the ministry, and sometimes I forget that everybody doesn't know what we've always done because I've told people for 28 years, I just didn't tell them. So sometimes you just go, well, they just don't know. Sometimes they think they're doing what they think you want them to do, and sometimes your kids think they are doing what you want them to. Sometimes your spouse thinks they're doing what makes you happy. And sometimes, ladies, when y'all get quiet, we think everything's okay. Do I look stupid? I should give you a warning. Hey, do I look stupid? No. I will say this, because my nose has continued to grow, when I go on an elevator now on hospital visitation, I step all the way to the back before the doors close. Come on, I'm trying to help you in here. Yeah, because it hurts, seriously. Sometimes when I do selfies, you'll see my nose smudged up against the screen. I can't even help it. That's just the length of my arm. I can't do it. Number 7, reward the successes and don't just fix the messes. I'm going to say that again. Reward the successes and don't just fix the messes. There are a lot of different ways you can reward success. Sometimes a smile, sometimes a thank you, sometimes a gift, sometimes a card, sometimes just a compliment. There's all kinds of ways you can. See, it's easy to walk in and say, how can this room still a mess? That's just what Janet says to me all the time. No, when you walk in your kid's room is what your kid's room is. And instead of walking in and saying, what a mess, you give a clear instruction today by 6 o'clock before dinner. I'd like to have the room cleaned up. Here's what I'd like. You know what they're going to do? They're going to throw it under the bed or throw it in the closet. But then when you walk in, you know, I was in the Army and you're supposed to be able to flip a coin. You're supposed to flip a coin off of the Army blanket. Drill sergeant going, no points for you. Everything's not rowed just right. But if they don't know what you want, and let me just say this, if you let them be a mess all the time, then you shouldn't be surprised when they're a mess all the time. So don't wait till you're upset, mad about something, disappointed about something, discouraged about something to go in there and be the drill instructor. It really confuses kids. That confuses me. All right, so that is just a real quick overview. I could have easily taken an hour for that, just on family order. Y'all believe God has a family order? How many of you do not have any written rules at your house? I could even ask you about your finances. How many of you don't have a will written down? See, I can tell you all the things that work, but if you don't take the time to work it, it doesn't work for you. Hi everybody, Perry Black right here at Arkansas Christian Academy, and I want to take this moment to just say thank you for looking at our website. I know you've got a lot of questions, and they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, let me tell you, take a tour of Arkansas Christian Academy. That's worth 1,000,000 words. Why don't you schedule a tour today? 501-847-0112. We look forward to hearing from you because spring registration's getting ready to open up. And in order to keep our classes small, maximum of 18 students per teacher or less, then we've got to know who's coming in the fall. And so we're getting ready to open up, and I look forward to hearing from you and meeting you, your family, your children, and watching them grow, not only in educational excellence, but character, integrity, and Christ-likeness. I look forward to seeing you again right here on our website, but more importantly, right here on our campus. Until then, I'll see you. God bless. All right, so let's look at God's financial order. And we'll do this real quick, because I'd rather spend 4 or 5 hours on this. Honor the Lord with the first fruits of all your increase, so then shall your barns. How many barns is that? More than one. So shall your barns be filled with plenty, and your presses burst out with new wine. How about this? Malachi 3:10. Bring all the tithes. How much is all the tithe? That'd be 10%. 9% is not a tithe. 5% is not a tithe. The only thing that could possibly be is an offering. So God's divine order in your finances. So let's just stop. Do y'all believe God has a divine order for your family? Yes. And you believe if you follow God's divine order for your family would be in order, and the blessing of God would flow powerfully on your family. Well, then, do you believe God has an order for your finances? And this is not a question of heart. This is a question of obedience. To me, tithing has never, ever been an issue, ever. It's never been a discussion. I've never had to pray about it. I just started giving to God and honoring God. And as I've said to you many times, if I thought I was going to spend $15 on Janet for a McDonald's something or another and a movie ticket, back when tickets for a movie were, 75 cents or $1, if I was going to spend $15 on her on a Friday night or a Friday or a Saturday, I couldn't, in my own mind, because I didn't even know what a tithe was, I never even heard the term that I could recall, I couldn't understand why I would spend $15 on her and give God 10 on Sunday. To me, it just didn't make any sense. So when I heard that a tithe was 10% and I was making $80, I thought, man, that's going to save me some money at church. It never happened. So I'm just telling you, God has a divine order. And here's God's divine order and God's divine result. And God's divine order is the big wise because He's wanting to bless His kids. All right? And it says, bring all the tithes to the storehouse or be meat in my house and prove me now and see if I will not open the windows of heaven. And remember, that word windows is the same word that when the earth flooded in the days of Noah, the floodgates were open. This word is literally floodgates. That's a big difference of the floodgates versus windows, right? In a bedroom, in a house, the bedroom window has to be big enough for a person from the fire department to climb through the window to rescue you with their oxygen tank on. That's called the egress. And they have to have a big window. So a typical bedroom window would probably be 3 foot wide. It varies based on height, but 3 foot wide and 5 foot tall. That's a window. So if you're visualizing God's going to throw open the windows, oh my, what a tiny little God you're serving. Your perception of God needs to change. Now, how many of you have a vision of a floodgate? Let's all get in the bus and go down to the Arkansas River, and there where that big old long doggone bridge is, and look down from the doggone bridge they spent all that money on that's so pretty, lit up in rainbow colors at times, and you look over to the other side, looking back toward the city of Little Rock, and there is a big old doggone. And man, that thing is huge. And that, when they open that up, they open those floodgates, I mean, it creates power. That's the God you're serving. God's divine order is, listen to me, because a tithe's a tithe. The tithe on $1 is a dime, and a tithe on $1 million is a whole bunch of money. But a tithe's a tithe. But you bring your $10 to God. $10 to God. A child bring God a dime. Here's what God does. And opens up the floodgates. He doesn't go over and go to their little Barbie house and open a little Barbie plastic window. He didn't go over to your house and open up a bedroom window so the fireman can come. You know what He does? He opens the floodgates. That's God's divine order. Why the tithe? Because God wants to open floodgates. And then it says, and he will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. That's God's financial order. So are you living in that? Well, then if you're not, then you need to get your finances in God's order. So catch the vision of a happy family. Here it is, Proverbs 29. Where there is no vision, the people perish. What's your vision for a happy family? Are you settling? Are you guessing? Are you hoping and a praying? Or do you have a vision? Do you have a vision? I'm a visionary person. I dream bigger now than I did 10 years ago. We started out, I thought I needed 5 acres for a youth ranch. And then somebody told me, oh no, if you're going to have horses, you need an acre for every horse. Well, but I'm not just going to have 5 acres. I've got to have a house or 2 for young people. And then somebody said, well, you need an acre for every horse. And I went, well, I think, if you had 10 kids, you'd want to have 5 or 6 horses, so we probably need 10 or 20 acres. So I upped it to 20. And then I thought about that for a while, and I thought, well, 20 acres is not very much because, you know, you got to have a garden, you got to have some activities, you got to have a ball field. So I went up to 40. And then when I finally got around to the Lord releasing me to go look at land, we looked at 160 acres. And ended up now with 300. Do you have a vision for your family? How many of y'all, do y'all like to get in an automobile and drive around and look at homes? You ever like to get in a party barge and go out on the lake and, oh, look, they built a new home since we were out on the lake last. Do you ever like to just go out and go on a job site and just take a piece of lumber and go, I do. I love the smell of a 2 before it's been cut. I love the smell of firewood, but see, that's something's all burned up. I like me and a friend of mine, we used to get in our car at lunch in West Little Rock, and I say, Randy, let's go smell some lumber. We'd drive all through West Little Rock. We'd drive up on job sites and just get out. And I said, smell that right there, Randy. Smell that. Smell that lumber. Doesn't that smell good? Don't y'all like to smell of lumber? Don't you like to going around just looking at beautiful homes under construction and watch them as they grow? And you go in, you go, oh, look what they've done. Oh, that looked good. Isn't that pretty? Have you ever been out driving around and look and say, oh, baby, that's beautiful. Wouldn't it be nice to live there? Oh, I can't imagine living there. Well, you won't have to. You won't ever have to live there if you can't imagine it. Come on, I'm trying to help you in here. You got to catch a vision. First and foremost, you got to see it. And I'm telling you, what the Lord spoke to me right up there a while ago is vision is more powerful spiritually than natural eyesight. Man, that is powerful. I'm going to preach that right there. I typed it in my notes right here. That vision is more powerful in the spirit than natural eyesight. Because if you cannot see it with in your spirit, you'll never see it with your eyes. Oh, you may see somebody else living in it. You may see somebody else driving it. You may see somebody else enjoying it. But to you, it'll just be a dream. Come on, I'm preaching this pretty good right here. Do you hear what I'm saying? You've got to see it here. And once you see it here, you got to believe it. Because it does no good. They had the gospel preached to them just as we did, but they who heard it did not mix it with faith, and it did not profit them. When you can begin to see clearly the vision God has that He wants to pour through your life, then all you got to do is mix it with faith. Faith in this big old gigantic enormous God whose windows are floodgates.
Hi, this is Perry Black, and I want to let all of our viewers know that all of my messages are free, and you can download those at familychurchbryant.org, and I'll see you next week right here on VTN, your Arkansas Christian Connection.